Right now, they're having a climate summit, and it's all lies. They're using fear tactics to make you believe that, hey, listen, if we don't get rid of fossil fuels right now, the world's coming to an end. And if you don't believe that there's a climate crisis, you are a science denier and you don't care about our planet. I mean, they're pushing this agenda. They're shoving it down our throats. Okay. The silent majority isn't paying attention. They're not saying anything because why? They're busy working. They're the backbones of this country. Look, the only reason why companies like GM and these other auto manufacturers are even on board with this idea and telling the world, hey, listen, guys, we're doing our part to lower emissions. We're building electric cars is because they're getting $184 billion of that $2 trillion package that Biden is coming up with. Look, guys, this isn't going to work. Most of our electricity comes from fossil fuels. If you look here, 37% of our electricity is created and generated by petroleum, oil that comes from the ground. 32% comes from natural gas, 11% from coal. You add those three up, that's 80% of our energy is coming from fossil fuels. And they expect to replace that overnight with the green tech that doesn't even exist yet. That's like me going up to my wife and say, hey, listen, honey, we're going to replace our house. Okay. Now the new house that we're moving to, it's 100 times more expensive. And even though it took us 150 years, which the grid took 150 years to build. So this house took 150 years to build, and let's go ahead and start packing now. Let's move out and start moving towards our new house. Well, honey, the house isn't built yet. Why would we do that? Well, something miraculous is going to happen. So let's just burn this house. Let's just pour some gas on it, strike a match. Let's burn the house. Let's move on to the new house. You know how ridiculous that is? I mean, our kids would be on the side of the road. The CPS would get involved. I mean, look, we're getting rid of the lifeblood of this world and jumping on to a new energy that doesn't even exist yet. Guys, I'm here to tell you that at the increase of, for instance, let's just talk about Bitcoin, okay? Bitcoin, if you look at Bitcoin, all right, this is a Bitcoin farm, okay? If you don't know what Bitcoin is, it's a cryptocurrency, and they use these powerful computers to generate, they mine for this currency, and as they mine, it creates cryptocurrency. Consumption and electricity usage for cryptocurrency is 118.28 terawatts today. That's how much they're using on a daily basis, okay? Now, if you look here from 2017, it grew substantially. I mean, look at these charts. Cryptocurrency is growing at a faster rate every single day. It's growing substantially. Now, I love this visual, this chart. And if you look here, for instance, Disney World consumes 1 terawatt a day. Okay, so that one light represents 1 terawatt. Facebook, 5 terawatts. Google, 12 terawatts. Ford, 14 terawatts. Bangladesh, 71 terawatts. Norway, that's a lot of lights there. That's 124 terawatts. Oh, wait a minute. Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is one of many cryptocurrencies. They're currently consuming 129 terawatts. Now, Bitcoin is one of many cryptocurrencies. This is a list of every single cryptocurrency. That's a lot of cryptocurrencies, and they are growing at a substantial rate. Look here, State of New York, 161 terawatts. The world's data center, 205 terawatts, okay? Now, the data that they're talking about, every single picture you post to Facebook, every single video you post to YouTube, every single picture or video on your phone, every single text message, every single phone call, everything is recorded. And the data is growing at a substantial rate. You just think about how much data is on your phone, how much data is on your computer, multiply that times 7 billion people, and you got massive amounts of data. Well, that data takes electricity, and it's growing. So if you look at Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, if you look at the data centers, if you look at plastic, I mean, a lot of our plastic is developed. I mean, plastic is developed from oil. What are we going to replace plastic with? I mean, how are we going to start making iPhones? These solar power panels, wind turbines most of that comes from oil. We can't replace that. And so there's been many analysts There's been many scientists that shows us, look, even if we get on this Green New Deal bandwagon, start replacing all of our cars, start replacing the grid with a smart green new tech grid, our demand for oil is still growing at a substantial rate. I mean, just reducing the amount of electricity or amount of fossil fuels we use by replacing a couple cars with electric is not going to reduce what we've been building for the last 150 years. I mean, this grid has been built for the last 150 years. I want to listen to what this scientist has to say about the climate crisis.
Now let's turn to the ambitions of today's climate summit and the very real challenges to President Biden's plans. Michael Mann is a climate scientist and professor of atmospheric sciences at Penn State University. He's the author of The New Climate War, The Fight
That looks
to
like
Take
a really
Back
good
Our
book.
Planet.
I'm sure that's a really good read.
Let me just start by asking, how ambitious is President Biden's plan that he's laid out compared to what any country's done before now?
And it is a bold plan. Make no mistake about it. We have the United States really laying down the gauntlet for other countries, a commitment to lower carbon emissions by a factor of 2 within the next 10 years. That is doable, and it is essential if we are to avert catastrophic warming of the planet.
Now, when he looks at you with his beady eyes and looks right in the camera and he says that is doable, I mean, don't you just believe that? I believe him.
3-degree Fahrenheit warming of the planet, where we will start to see some of the worst impacts of climate change.
Well, let me read for you what the New York Times is reporting would be required by the end of the decade in order to meet the president's goal of cutting emissions in half. More than half of all new cars and SUVs would need to be powered by electricity, not gasoline. Nearly all coal-fired power plants would need to be shut down. Forests would need to expand, and the number of wind turbines and solar panels would quadruple. Is that realistic?
Yeah, well, nothing that's worth doing is easy. It's certainly a monumental task, but there is quite a bit of research now. Teams from Stanford and the University of California, for example, that have demonstrated that we can get there with existing technology. We don't need a miracle, Bill Gates.
There's been a lot of research. I mean, if you were an investor that was looking to invest in what this guy was selling, you'd be sitting there really questioning the validity of what he's talking about. Oh, there's some research. So let's get rid of fossil fuels and let's jump on this Green New Deal.
Who's said that in the past. We have the technology necessary to solve this problem. What we need is the political willpower, and we need the policies.
We do not have the technology that the world needs to replace fossil fuels. He is a liar. He is lying. Look, you think about it. When the sun's not shining, the solar power panels are not working. When the wind is not blowing, the wind turbines are not working. So what do you need to run the grid at night? You need batteries. When is most of our electricity consumed? At night. Everyone leaves their job and they sit down in front of their big screen television. They got their phones running. They got their computers running. They got their TV running. They got their ovens running. They're cooking their meal. That's when they consume most electricity. So during the peak hours, most of our grid is going to be running on batteries. How are batteries developed? They're developed from lithium. Lithium is mined from the ground. Guys, they are liars.
And we've got leadership from the president in terms of executive actions that address the climate crisis. We're also going to need a legislative component. We're going to need climate legislation to make its way through Congress if we are going to meet those commitments.
In other words, we need a lot more people shoving this BS down our throats to lie to us, brainwash us.
There are lots of things that we can do. For example, creating a resilient smart grid that can be powered with renewable energy. These are all.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and build a smart grid that is powered by renewable energy. And, we could do that. We could replace our 150-year-old grid that's built on fossil fuels in no time. It's no problem.
things that will improve our infrastructure, that will provide jobs. But again, it's not going to be easy. If we are to wean ourselves from coal and natural gas and oil.
President Biden celebrating Earth Day by promising he'll force America to do its part to save the planet.
The United States sets out on the road to cut greenhouse gases in half by the end of this decade.
And
I love how Biden is reading this script. It's wonderful. I mean, just look at his eyes. I mean, if I was sitting here like this and squinting and reading something, you guys would be like, man, this guy's a president. And he's reading a script. Everything he does is script.
Jet-loving John Kerry says all the CO2 from the atmosphere needs to go.
But even if we get to net zero, we still have to get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So this is a bigger challenge than a lot of people have sort of really grabbed onto yet.
Dagan, my favorite part about this whole thing is that they make these goals of reducing emissions, but the planet's supposed to be over by then. Didn't we only have 8 years left? So what's the point?
Right. Well, they want control, and they want to destroy lives and livelihoods, certainly in the United States, despite the fact our emissions have been falling dramatically. And they want to destroy lives and livelihoods and do it by government fiat. This is not through innovation. This is not through creation of new technology. It's literally Joe Biden is just.
I mean, she's so right. This is not through creation of new technology. This is taking technology that already exists and making everyone believe that it is going to work when we know it's not going to. Look, guys, this whole climate crisis is a big sham, and oil prices are going to skyrocket. There's studies saying that our household electricity bills are going to increase by 285% if they implement this green technology. Guys, who's going to pay for this thing? I mean, the emerging markets, other poor countries that want to drive like us, they want to have a life like we do. There's still some of these countries still living in grass huts, and they want to have our lives, and they're getting closer, but they're not going to go green. They're going to fossil fuels. Look, even if we went green, our fossil fuel demand is growing with cryptocurrency, with plastics, with the emerging markets. Guys, we can't escape the fossil fuel game, but with Biden reducing the subsidies and focusing on this anti-oil agenda, all we're doing, we're handing it over to the Middle East, and we are going to become the dumbest nation this world has ever seen. All right, guys, I'm Sean Pruitt, president of Kingdom Exploration. If you like this channel, please subscribe, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.